Today's lesson is on CSEC, Principles of Business, and I am Kian Johnson. Now, for our lesson today, we're going to be talking about something that we all love to have in abundance. Think about something that you would really love to have in abundance right now. All right, so some of you might say food, some of you might say money. If you said money, you're correct. Our topic today is about money. We're talking about money today. Now, what would we do without money? There are so many things that we use money to take care of. We use money to take care of our bills. We use money to enjoy the things we really love in life. We use money to take care of the less fortunate. We use money to ensure that our households survive. So today, our focus is on the development of money. And our objectives for today, we should be able to explain the development of the barter system. We'll be describing the role that money plays in our economy. And we will also be identifying how money solved the limitations of the barter system. So, here's our first quick trivia. Do you know how people traded before money came into existence? Now, if you were listening to the objectives just to know, you might have an idea of what we used to trade or how we used to trade before money came into existence. So, listen up and you may hear the answer coming shortly. So, before we used the papers and the coins, the notes and coins that you're more familiar with now, we actually used a system of trading we refer to as the barter system. Now, have you ever traded something like one product for another, maybe between your friend or family? You might have something that you would like to exchange for something else, right? So that is what we refer to as the barter system. So the barter system, we refer to it as the trading of goods and services between two or more parties without the use of money. So, for example, if you should exchange 2 pounds of yam for a pound of beef, that's bartering, that's trading, and we do barter every day, even though that is not really the primary system of exchange these days. All right, so today we want to focus on the limitations of the barter system first. Why did we move away from the barter system? Why isn't it the main means of exchange in present time? So during the existence of the barter system, when that was the main means of exchanging, we had some problems that existed with trading goods for goods and services for services, or goods and services. And one of the main problems that we discovered, or that were discovered in the barter system, we have the lack of double coincidence of wants. Now, think about the trading of goods and services. In order for us to really successfully trade goods and services, we would really have to have a double coincidence of wants. So you had to have the coincidence of you having what I want to trade with, and I must also have what you desire, so that trade can be successful. Therefore, the barter system, when it existed as the primary means of exchanging, we had the lack of double coincidence of wants. So in this system, we say that the barter transactions can only be possible when two persons desire the exchange of commodities, and they should have the commodity that they mutually would really like to trade. So we call this double coincidence of wants. For example, if Kristen, let's say we have a pig farmer called Kristen, and she wants to trade corn, trade her pigs for corn. she would need to find a corn farmer who wants pork or who wants the pig. So this is sometimes hard to really find within the barter system. For example, let us say she found a corn farmer, Sashika, who may not eat pork. She would want the corn from Sashika, but Sashika wouldn't really want the pig. So she would really have, maybe Sashika is a Seventh-day Adventist. Maybe Sashika doesn't really like pork. So she would really have to find somebody with whom she can really agree upon an exchange. So that's the first problem, that's the first limitation of the barter system. Now we had the second problem existing where we had the indivisibility of goods. Within the barter system, we had the problem where sometimes in trading, some goods just could not be divided. And if divided, they would lose their values. So as it relates to one of the first issues that we discovered, or that was discovered in the barter system, is related to goods that could not really be divided. And if divided, they would lose value. So, for example, goods like rice and flour could easily be divided, but there would have been some difficulty in exchanging these types of goods and trading with goods like livestock, animals. So let's look at another example of this problem. Exchanging 8 pounds of rice for 5 pounds of beef would really mean that cow farmer would need to kill the cow and be left with the meat. And, the meat would be at a risk of spoiling, or the farmer would be left with the task of finding more persons who would really like to trade the beef, or to buy the beef, or exchange the beef for whatever other good. So this problem is one other issue that existed within the barter system. We also have the third problem that developed, which we refer to it as the lack of storage of wealth. Now, when we think about storing wealth in present time, we think about how much money we can really put away in the bank, how much money we can store, we can invest. But unlike money, within the barter system, there were things that could not really be stored because they were perishable items. And even in storing those commodities, they would be perishable. We consider them to be perishable. They would spoil. So that is one thing that really existed within the barter system that caused it to fail. And let's look at an example really to understand this a little bit better. If farmers, let us say that we had a trade of livestock. We had a goat, we traded the mutton, and then we had, maybe we killed a lot of goats to really sell or trade. And what happened is that, yes, we got some sold, but we are left with a certain amount on our hands. Or we could have traded what we have for corn, or we could have traded it for rice. All these produce or livestock, in storing them up, they run at a risk of spoilage. Therefore, the amount we store doesn't necessarily mean that we become wealthy. Unlike with money, the more we store, ceteris paribus, all things being equal, we can increase our wealth, right? Notwithstanding inflation or the devaluation of the dollar. So when we talk about barter, that was one of the problems that developed. The fourth main problem that developed in the barter system was the problem of the exchange rate problem. So we had the issue of the common or agreed measure of value. Now, in present time, think about the things that you have. Maybe look in your surroundings and look at the things that you own. Think about its value. How much does it value in terms of a monetary figure? And if you're supposed to trade, let's say your phone, with the phone of the person next to you, you may not agree on that exchange because it may be of a different value. You might own a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus and your friend owns a banger's phone. So you might not agree on trade because you both know that, or maybe the other person thinks that their phone is of a greater value. So there may be a disagreement in trade. So whenever the barter system existed, that was one problem where there were some persons who believed that their item was of a greater value than what others believed it to be. So there we had the exchange rate problem. So here's another little trivia. Can you name, based on what we have just discussed, can you name 2 problems that led to the failure of the barter system? We listed 4. Think about them. And for each trivia, we will be revisiting these questions at the end of our session. So think about your answers, and at the end, we'll see if you're getting them right. Okay? Now, we're moving on to money. Wouldn't we all love to have this in abundance right now? Now, if you look at the image that has been displayed, you'll realize that there are various items that were used as money. And if you've taken a visit to the Bank of Jamaica Money Museum, you would see some of the items that have been used as money. So looking in this image right here, you will see, I think these are cowrie shells. We have different types of metals. We have the introduction of notes and coins, which is the earlier, or the most recent use items that we use for money. We have other items that are not in this picture that have been used as money as well. So this thing that we all love, and we're told that this is the root of all evil. Money. What is money really? We can therefore define money, being that we use it to exchange it for goods and services. We can define it as being a medium of exchange that is widely acceptable, and it is acceptable by all persons within the economy. Now, early money, when money was introduced in different economies across the world, we had things like shells, metals, coins. We had even tooth being used as money. So money can also be a piece of paper with a historic image, that something of what we can really relate to now. And it is with items that are currently used as money, the value that people really places on it is really what gives it its worth. Because think of the things that we use as money now. Without those images and special features on them, they can just be used as waste paper. But money really have some characteristics. Now, before we look at the characteristics of money, it's important to look at the different types or classifications of money. Now, did you know that we have 2 different classifications of money, or main classifications of money? Yes, money can be categorized as being commodity money or fiat or token money. So what we really refer to as commodity money, these are items that they really have value in themselves. They can be used for something else, but we use them as money as well. So in certain times, I think it was during one of those wars, we had people trading commodities, and different items are used based on their value, or different items were given various values or varying values. We also have fiat or token money, and we also have the notes and coins that we really are familiar with today. So the fiat or token money are items that really serve as money, that they have no other value. They have no intrinsic value. So picture a $5,000 bill. If the image isn't printed on it and the special features are not on it, it is of no use. The paper itself has no value in itself. So it is referred to as a fiat or a token money. Now, let's look at another trivia question. Can you name any other commodity that has been used as money? Maybe you know something else that has been used as money. So think about this question, and we'll come back to this one at the end of our session. Okay, now let us look at some characteristics of money. Think about the money in your pocket right now, or in your wallet. Think about that piece of paper that you have, or it could be coins. What are some of the characteristics or criteria that instrument really have to pass to be classified as money? Let's look at a few of them. So the first thing that it must really pass, the first criteria that it must pass, is that it must be generally acceptable. For anything to be really used as money, it must be widely acceptable. Everybody within the society or within that region must accept that as the sole medium of exchange, or as the general medium of exchange. One other characteristic of money is that it must be uniformed. They must all look alike. They must all have the same features. They must also resemble in size and quantity, or quality really, size and quality, and basic description. Let's look at two additional characteristics of money. We have durability. If you think about the different items or different notes or coins that you have in your pocket or purse, if you look at them, you'll realize that some of them are dated maybe 2 years back or 3 years back, because money is considered to be durable and it must last a long time, even though sometimes really it gets wet or torn, or may rust based on where it is or what interacts with it, with the coins. But money is generally durable. It must last a long time. Money must also be divisible. Money must be able to be broken down into smaller quantities or denominations. So, for instance, a $50 can be broken down into two $20 and a $10. So money must be able to be broken down, and we call that divisible. It's divisible nature. Okay. Money must also be difficult to counterfeit. It must not easily be copied, or else we'll have a really big problem. Money must be relatively stable in value. Despite inflation and the devaluation of the dollar, for something to be classified as money, or to even function as money, especially to function as a means of really acquiring wealth, we really have to have stability. And the last characteristic of money that we're focusing on today is that money must be a legal tender. So anything that we use as money, it must be acceptable by law, or designated by law as the accepted means of exchange. All right, so there are some instances where money, despite being a legal tender, can be refused, or can be refused. So, for instance, if you look at the GIF that's in the display, you'll realize that there's somebody trying to pay off his debts using some coins. So it is actually, according to US laws, and we look at this little sub area where Jamaican laws are concerned, but according to US laws, merchants can legally refuse payments in excess of 100 pennies. So sometimes money, despite it being legally accepted, we can refuse it on certain terms. All right. So we have another trivia. Let's see if we can figure this one out. Give an example of money being a legal tender but not acceptable. Think about this one. I know some of us, despite whatever condition the money is in, we will accept it. But can you think of any scenario And I think I've just given away the answer in my discussion earlier. So think of a situation where money is a legal tender, but it can be refused. Now, we're going to be looking quickly at the 4 main functions of money. So, we use money for various reasons. We have different ways in which money really becomes important in our everyday life. So, let us look at a few of them. So, money is used as a measure of value. Money is also used as a medium of exchange in trade. Money is also used as a standard of deferred payment. We will look at each of them and what they mean. And money is also functional as a medium of storing wealth, saving up wealth. So let us look at each function. Money serving as a measure of value. Now, when we say money it functions as a measure of value, we sometimes put monetary value on items. So let us say that you wanted to really find out if your laptop is worth the same as your friend's laptop. We use a monetary figure to assign to each of them to find out which of them is worth more. Not really in quality, but in cost. So we can say, well, your laptop cost $50,000. That's money reference right there. Or versus my laptop may cost $35,000. So that's a comparing value. We can also look at the monetary value of items to find out which of them is worth more. And we use it to really compare whether it be goods or services. We also use money as a medium of exchange. And that is one of the most common ways we use money, to exchange it for what we really need. So think about the things that you have acquired thus far. The clothes on your back, the earphones, the AirPods that you have, the smartphone, the television that you're watching this on, or your smartphone. All of those things we traded money to really acquire. So money primarily serves as a medium of exchange. Money is also functional as a standard of deferred payment. It is through money that we're able to walk into courts, or you can actually walk into a dealership, a car dealership, and acquire a good now. And with a promissory note or with a certain agreement, you may pay for it over time. So that is what we refer to as deferred or postponed payment. You enjoy the good right now, but over time you pay for the good. So money, with money being in existence, we have that functionality that we can really enjoy. So money also functions as the 4th main function of money is that it is a medium of measuring wealth, or we can use it to store up wealth. Now, this function of money is something that really can become argumentative, because money, when we store up money, we are able to be richer, we are able to acquire more assets, we're able to increase our net worth. But this function of money, storing wealth, is really at risk of being true if it is that we have inflation, or economy is really suffering a very great inflation, or we may have a recession that's being experienced in the economy at that particular time. We may also have a devaluation of the dollar. So if you're storing up currency, you're storing up notes and coins in with the motive of becoming more wealthy, those are the things that really work against the amount of wealth that you may try to acquire over time. Because think about owning or having $2,000, let's say 30 years ago. $2,000 30 years ago may seem to be like a lot of money if you had $2,000 30 years ago. But over time, $2,000 these days goes through your hands quickly because of inflation. What it used to be worth 30 years ago, it's totally not worth that right now. So we have the function, the storage of wealth being really money doesn't really function as a storage of wealth if you're storing little by little for over a long span of time, a very little by little, maybe $10 a day. So you may not really realize that wealth. Now, we are going to move on to our next trivia question. So I hope that you've been writing down your answers and I hope that you've been getting them right. So let's look at what our next trivia is. So we're going to try to figure out to which function of money do each of the following scenarios apply. So help me to figure this one out. The first one is Mark compares the price of a polo shirt to the price of a pair of Ralph Lauren shorts. So remember now the different functions of money. We use them as a medium of exchange, as standard of deferred payment. We use money as a medium of storing wealth and a unit of measuring, like a measuring stick, a measuring unit. Now, what function would money play in this scenario? Let's look at the next scenario. Margaret joins a partner plan. So we call it partner, or you may hear so-so, or you may hear another term being used maybe in another country, but Margaret joins a partner plan. What function is money playing in this scenario? And let's look at the third one. Odette takes a loan to purchase or to pay for her master's degree. What function is money playing in this scenario? And the fourth scenario, Peter buys a Mercedes-Benz for 120,000 US dollars. So what role is money playing in that fourth scenario? So think about these questions and let's see if you'll get them right. Now, here's a little bit of knowledge. Did you know that each function of money solved a particular problem encountered in the barter system? Yes, so think of each problem of the barter system, and maybe what you can try to do is to write them down and see which of these functions really solved which problem in the barter system. Because there are four main problems that were encountered in the barter systems, and there are four main functions of money. So give that a try. Now, the last thing that we're going to be looking at today, we're not really dwelling on it for a long period of time. But did you know that money, or the different forms in which money comes, can be arranged in the order of liquidity? So in this diagram right here, you'll realize that money is arranged in the order of liquidity from bottom to top. And this pyramid can be can come in its natural form, but it's an inverted pyramid right now. So at the end of our pyramid, we start out with the most liquid form. So we say that narrow money exists at the bottom of our the bottom of our inverted pyramid, where notes and coins are the most liquid forms of money. We have demand deposits, savings in building societies, time deposits, and the treasury instruments that are considered to be one of the least liquid forms of money. And these three sets fall under what we refer to as broad money. So we have two additional classifications of the various forms of money. We refer to them as broad and narrow money. Okay, now I know you've been guessing for your trivia, for each of the trivia questions that were given. So now let's look back and find out how well did you do. Let's see if we got them all right. So the first question that was asked is, do you know how people traded before money came into existence? All right. So if you guessed barter, you're correct. Awesome. All right, so let's look at our next trivia question. We have Can you name 2 problems that led to the failure of the barter system? Now, let's see if you got it right. Now, even though these are 2 answers that I produced or I provided, you might be able to name 4. We had the lack of double coincidence of wants and indivisibility of goods. We also had the exchange rate problem and the storage of wealth issue. All right, here's our next trivia. Can you name any other commodity that has been used as money? All right, let's hear if you've guessed this one right. Let's see if you've guessed this one right. So cowrie shells, some of us might be familiar with these shells. I see sometimes we have them at the end of our hairs, like if we have a twist or a plait, sometimes they put them at the end of some persons put them at the end of their twist or plait. Now, these shells were actually once used as money. So can you imagine if you had a lot of them stored up at home right now? You can just imagine if you had them back then, you might have had a lot of money. So cowrie shells were once used as money. And it is not only restricted to cowrie shells. In ancient Rome, they actually used to use salt as money. And you might be thinking about salt as money, but they actually used the salt as money or as a means of assuring wealth or showing wealth in ancient Rome. All right, so let's look at our next trivia. Give an example of money being a legal tender but not acceptable. All right, so did you know that paying for goods in cash in excess of $1 million can be considered to be illegal? Now, we're going to look at why or how or when is it considered to be illegal to really carry out cash transactions in excess of $1 million. So that's one condition under which money is really an acceptable form of medium of exchange, but it can be refused. Also, money that's no longer in circulation, like the paper $20 that's no longer accepted. There are times when the Bank of Jamaica may have a recall of certain items we use as money or certain representation of money. So those are times when we are no longer accepting certain items as money. Now, here's the little fact that I wanted to share with you. According to the Proceeds of Crime Act in Jamaica, it is actually illegal for persons to pay for or receive cash in excess of $1 million without it being declared to the Financial Services Commission. So that's one little fun fact that you can take away from today's lesson. Okay, so let us see if we can recap and wrap up what we have spent time discussing today. So we looked at the history of money, and which included the barter system. We looked at the limitations of the barter system, why it no longer exists. So these are the limitations of the barter system, right? We also looked at the features of money, all these conditions that things must really meet in order to really be counted as money. Durability, portability, being homogeneous, and the list goes on. We also have different functions of money. For what purpose do we really use money? As a medium of exchange, a unit of account, storage of wealth, and the standard of deferred payment.